app.
While your day is winding down, they're just getting started. This is South Coast Tonight with Chris McCarthy and Marcus Farrow. They've got you covered on all the news of the day, from local issues to politics on both sides of the aisle. This is the place where the movers and shakers come to be heard, to listen, and where they're held accountable. This is South Coast Tonight on WBSM.
Welcome to South Coast Tonight. I'm Marcus Farrow. 508-996-0500 is how you can join me this evening. We'll also take your messages on the WBSM app. We should be joined soon by Alves of PAACA. They have been doing a lot of work in the housing front. Doing recently, actually, there was a housing forum that was held by Congressman Bill Keating. It was at UMass Dartmouth, and it talked about all the programs that were available, all the tools that were available, and some strategies on how to combat the, I keep using this description, but intractable housing crisis. So, it's an issue in New Bedford, it's an issue in Fall River, it's an issue everywhere. I think in New Bedford in particular, I believe it's, the population grew 6,000 over the last 10 years, but housing stock was depleted by 2,000 units in that time. So, 10 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound bag. It's the kind of situation we're dealing with. But joining us now is Alves from PAACA. Hey, Carl. Oh, Carl?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. How's it going?
It's good. It's good. Busy times.
So, you're the president of PAACA, and can you just explain to people what PAACA is?
Sure. It stands for Positive Action Against Chemical Addiction, and we're a grassroots organization that is dedicated to prevention, treatment, recovery support services, trying to help people find better pathways to recovery.
Sure.
And so we're involved in a lot of different kinds of things.
Well, so one of those things is housing. Just I always want to do this before we start our interview, in case disclosures are necessary. Carl and I were related. We're cousins, second or third cousins. I don't know what level of cousins we are, but we are related. So, Carl, one of the areas that you guys work on is housing. That does have a lot of overlap with addiction, but you have been you've been a leader in this front for more affordable housing for some time. And recently there was a conference, a forum held at UMass Dartmouth by Congressman Bill Keating, where he gave you and Councilor at Large Shane Berger credit for its organization. Can you tell us a little bit about that conference that happened last week?
Sure can. I'm just happy and fortunate to be, part of it. It's housing options for momentum and equity, and this is a non-governmental group, consumer or community-based group that includes, folks from all walks of life, from investors and developers to folks that run programs, consumers, cross-section. It is a wide focus group that really wants to promote housing, good quality housing, affordable and otherwise, in our community, because we are certainly, as you were just describing earlier, the 10 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound bag. That's where we're at right now, because we haven't been producing new housing in our community. And I'm not just talking about New Bedford, but greater New Bedford, for quite some time. And we're finding that lots of people are moving down here. The housing stock is actually shrinking. We all saw the fire the other day that wiped out another 30 units of housing, and there's been a number of fires that have probably wiped out maybe close to 100 units of housing over the last month or so, couple of months. And so, we're working, and we've been working together, for the last 6 months to just raise awareness, bring forward ideas to the administration, to folks that are in the know. And they were really pleased because the mayor put forth a 22-point plan that, includes a lot of different kinds of elements to it. And some of them were direct result of the work that our community has been doing through the Home Coalition. And I think there is an understanding, and I think, people understand the need. Yes, we want to have, so there's some great luxury apartments being built downtown and, in the city, which is fantastic. But we also recognize that not everybody can afford those.
Yeah.
And so we need to make space for everyone, because our community is so great because of the nature of our diversity and the different kinds of people here. And we don't want to lose our neighborhoods by just folks just kind of migrating into this city with, buying up and gentrifying our community.
So, Carl, at that forum, Congressman Keating announced some $2 million in funding for the city for homelessness initiatives. Your organization, PAACA,
right.
I think got a couple $100,000.
Yep.
So,
Yes.
what can you tell us what that's for?
Well, first of all, we're very grateful, and we work very closely with HUD, and it's terrific.
HUD is the.
However, this is kind of
people,
an annual allotment.
Just for people who don't know, Carl, just 1 second. People who don't know, HUD is the Federal Office of Housing and Urban
Development.
Urban
right.
Development. So just for people who may not know.
And they're the ones that really fund our local New Bedford Housing Authority with most of its funding, as well as a lot of the Section 8 certificates that are available. It's a very large agency that has a major impact in our community. And part of what they do is they give communities dollars to spend to address homelessness in the individual community. And our local group that kind of applies for HUD money is called the Homeless Service Provider Network, which is a group of maybe 40 plus different organizations that are working on homeless related issues. This is more narrow than the home group. I know it gets a little confusing, but this is really specific around issues of homelessness. And so each year, the city of New Bedford, and kudos to Josh Amaral and his deputy Jennifer Clark out of the Office of Housing and Community Development. They coordinate an application on behalf of the city that includes partners like PAACA, Stepping Stone, Catholic Social Services, Veterans Transition, and others to submit to the feds, and we were very fortunate to be funded. That said, PAACA was actually the first organization to apply for permanent supportive housing program back in the late 90s. And that is the same funding that has carried forward over the last 20 plus years. And so, although it is money that is really critical to making things happen, it's not like a new bucket of money that isn't already kind of accounted for. It's more of an annual application that we keep going in order to maintain the units that we have currently. So every once in a while there are new projects, and there are a couple this year. Stepping Stone got some extra money to do some extra projects, as did High Point. So, we're expanding a little bit, but it's really a collective approach to try to, create space, help people that have disabilities, people that have experienced homelessness, get back on their feet and live productive lives going forward. I'm really pleased to say that over the 20 plus years that we've been doing that, a number of the folks that have been in this program have leveraged themselves out of homelessness and now are homeowners and living productive lives and really kind of turned things around. And that is good for all of our community, and that's what we want to see more of.
So we're speaking with Carl Alves of PAACA, one of the leading organizations in the fight for more affordable housing in New Bedford. So the home group you talked about a little bit. You guys meet fairly regularly. You had this conference, and that was a major thing. The forum with representatives from HUD and the congressman and other organizations. There was actually a lot to learn there.
I was learning a lot myself.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you guys covered it. I mean, because it gets a little bit, it is a bit bureaucratic and that what have you, but there's a tremendous amount of resources that they presented. But we're competing against Boston. We're competing against, communities all over the country for these dollars. So we have to make sure that we are organized, thoughtful in our approach, and really have access and connection with folks at HUD. And I think kudos to Representative Keating for bringing this together. And I think we represented our region well.
Yeah, I think so. So what's your next big endeavor with the home group? Is there anything else that you're moving towards after this forum?
Well, from the conversations that happened last week, I've received a couple of calls from a couple of different developers that want to kind of understand more about what we're doing. Because a lot of times, since it is very complex, the funding mechanisms necessary to develop housing, it really is, it's a science in and of itself.
Oh, yeah.
So it's being done outside, without opinion from folks that are doing some of the boots on the ground work. So I think this is going to be our opportunity to kind of meet with developers, let them know what we're trying to, some of the things that we're seeing. We'll probably be able to give them some good information, technical assistance, and guidance from our perspective so that they can have stronger developments. I think the other piece, too, one of the people that were at the event on Wednesday was from the Federal Home Loan Bank.
Yeah.
Which I thought was terrific.
Yeah, I thought that was a good presentation.
Yeah, it was, because it's not an organization you normally hear from, because they're the organization that actually funds banks. They're the ones that are providing mortgage money to the local banks, credit unions like First Citizens Credit Union and Baycoast and many others in our region. And I think it'll be an opportunity to try to connect with those folks, kind of see where they are, what their plans are, so that we can inform the community. It came to my attention that POA, and I'm forgetting what it stands for, but it's an affordable housing group, is actually in the midst of licensing for an elderly complex in down, just outside of downtown area, which is something that we desperately need, because I think one of the most challenging things that we have in our community, and you're well aware of it, is seniors that are getting priced out of the market. So we definitely need to make sure that we have space for them, because that hurts us all when seniors are homeless or are struggling and bouncing about. If any family that has an elder in their family, can understand, it requires a lot of help. And, as a community, we need to put that as a top priority.
So POA, I think, stands for Preservation of Affordable Housing.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they are the ones that did Temple Landing.
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to be near Temple Landing and a kind of an addition to it for elders.
Is there any position on, because one of the, co-founders of the home group, Shane Burgo, he is the, you and Shane co-founded the home group. Is there any and he's putting forward this ballot, this rent stabilization ballot question, basically asking people whether or not that should be something they should do. Basically, sort of like a prelude to action. Is this PAACA? Do you or PAACA have an official position on that question?
I don't know that we have an official position on it. However, that said, and I've talked with Councilor Burgo, about it, and I think the more conversation about these kinds of things, the better. It is my understanding that rent control might not necessarily yield the outcomes that we're looking for. So I'm a little bit hesitant in terms of just kind of jumping on and say, oh yeah, rent control. However, what the councilor is talking about is stabilization. And, that to me, some people might say, oh, mincing words or what have you. But, the fact is that, we heard stories at that event on Wednesday where, people are getting evicted out of their homes or being charged, 40, 50% more for rent in a 30-day period. And that is displacing people all over. So I think part of that displacement, some of the stories that we've heard over the last few months about seniors living in their car because they can't afford to stay, and somebody bought their building and they're out. I think we need to have some accommodation, and I applaud Councilor Burgo for kind of putting it out there for conversation. Yeah. It does make some people nervous, and people are afraid, well, this is going to scare off investors. However, I think, an informed community that is engaged, and we definitely showed that Wednesday. There was a nice cross-section of different folks there. We are interested, and we can understand, how this works, and we can be supportive of smart development. And I think that's really where we want to go. We want people to be involved. Can't be passive in this. This is how we've not had housing over the last decade. And so, again, I think I'm looking forward to understanding more and having a conversation. This is a non-binding referendum. I understand that there's some, there's some additional votes for it to go forward at the council level, and we'll see. I'm hoping that people will put that forth because I think anytime we can have an open conversation about these kinds of things, the better we will all be because we understand it better. One example of it, there was a recent development in the North End that was proposed by a really great developer, and it got squashed because the neighbors were concerned about parking. And this is the same place where there is homelessness spreading throughout the neighborhood. We've got to find balance. There is no panacea. There are no perfect answers. There's going to be sacrifice on both parts. But I think an informed citizenry and folks that are aware of what's happening and are supporting one another and trying to make the best decisions, I think that's good for New Bedford, not only New Bedford, greater New Bedford, for the South Coast. I
think that's important to mention. You said that there was something that was basically kiboshed because of parking concerns, and so there has to be sort of like people sort of have to be disabused or disabuse themselves of NIMBY attitudes, basically.
Yes, and the administrator for HUD is launching out a new program called YIMBY with a Y at the beginning instead of the end. So yes, in my neighborhood, and so hopefully we'll put an application for that and hopefully get some funding. But yes, I mean, listen, I've lived in New Bedford and I know how parking could be, especially when it's snowing, and it is challenging. But not to build housing because of that.
There are bigger challenges than there's bigger challenges than the availability of parking, right? It's the availability of housing as well.
Right, exactly. It is, but all politics is local, and these are really, people feel strongly about this, and that's part of what we want to try to do with the home group is just kind of validate, this is important. So when Joe Quigley gets up to the mic and says, "Hey, none of your 22 point plan includes anything for renters," We got to listen to that, and we got to say, okay, what can we do? It's not about. It's about don't let perfection get in the way of progress. We need to keep moving, keep adding, and adjust as we go. This is a dynamic plan, and we need more people, to chime in.
Yeah, to that point, actually, the mayor's 22-point plan. You were up there for the presentation.
I was.
So, what's your thoughts on the plan overall?
I think it's a great first step, and I think it is something that we can point to and keep track of. My concern is that it's a beautiful plan. It's beautiful looking, all that kind of stuff. But executing the plan is going to be the important thing. But it's not just about we're going to build X amount of units in this part of time. It's also about creating an environment where investment can prosper in the city, where local investment can prosper in the city. That's something that's really important, I think, that we cultivate local investors to invest in our neighborhoods because they have more skin in the game as opposed to the outside folks. So that's something that's important to me. I think, making the development easier in a smart way. There's got to be, transparency and accountability first, obviously. But, for investors, I've talked with some builders as part of the home group that are struggling, waiting months on months for building permits and those kinds of things. We need to expedite that. That's included in the plan. So, I think, is it going to happen overnight? No. But I think the timing was good. In terms of, we'd all would have liked a little bit more notice and all that kind of stuff. But, let's keep moving forward. And we will adjust as we need to going forward. But I support the mayor for, putting it forward and look forward to being a positive participant in the conversation. And I think, we encourage, folks that are interested in this and could be a positive force for change to join us.
Do you think that there are enough local developers to get involved?
Well, no, I don't. Not yet. I think it exists, but I think people, there's a wide variety of different folks that could be interested. Maybe some young professionals that are looking to make some investments, or perhaps some nonprofits that could rally some resources and do some development of their own. And we're not talking about 1,000-unit sites. We're talking about 2 or 3 families, and really kind of building that up, retaining local flavor of our neighborhoods and that sort of thing. So I think, there's opportunity across the board, and my priority is local opportunity.
So is there anything we haven't covered yet that you'd like to discuss on this topic?
I think, I think we have. I think it's an ongoing conversation.
Yeah.
I think there's a place for everyone. I think everybody should be aware of this. Even if you're not a developer, or maybe you own your own home already or what have you, but, you might be part of a family that owns a 3-decker. Maybe a grandparent owns it or what have you, and maybe they're transitioning to a different, lifestyle. Maybe they're going to the assisted living or something to that effect, or maybe the house is in trust. We want to kind of make sure that we are reaching out to all folks that own homes so that we can make sure that all the properties are at their highest, best use. And we want to create an environment where people feel supported, and we can get that done. So, again, this is an ongoing process. We'd welcome phone calls and emails and get involved. Again, our home group, GNB, .org is, you can find us there and just, connect. We'll get you on our mailing list, and you can join us for our meetings and future gatherings. The more the merrier.
That's homegroupgnb.org.
Right.
Carl Alves, thanks for joining us. I appreciate the work you're doing.
I appreciate you too. Thank you.
Thanks. That was Carl Alves. We're related. He's my cousin. But Carl's been a pillar in this community for about 2 decades, at least, probably longer. And the work he's doing at PAACA, the work at the home group, really at the forefront on the ground level of a lot of the things that really matter, the things that we're talking about here, like addiction, like homelessness, like the scarcity of affordable housing and how to make it less scarce. Carl's the one of the people really putting together the coalitions that can move things. And I think that's evidenced in Congressman Keating, moving with, moving that forum forward with Congressman Keating and the Office of Housing and the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD. That was a big thing. And by the way, we didn't mention this. I was at that. I covered it. There's actually a story on WBSM.com you can check out if you'd like to see more. But I was there, and it was at capacity. It was completely full. Every single chair had a person in it. And in fact, I remember getting an email from one of the congressman's staff saying that they had reached capacity and that people can sign up virtually via Zoom. So there were actually, on top of the at capacity number of people at UMass Dartmouth, there were people signed up on Zoom as well. So I think it goes to show you the level of interest there is in this particular issue and doing something about it, because I saw a lot of people there. Members of the city council were there. You had, labor leaders. There was a lot of people there that are, I think would be identified by most people as state reps. I saw Chris Hendricks there. There are a lot of people that would be identified, I think, by many as community leaders. So it was a great forum. There was a lot to learn there. And there'll be more, I think, public discussions like this going forward. So 508-996-0500 is how you can join me this evening. We'll also take your messages on the WBSM app chat. I'm with you till 10 p.m. tonight. This is South Coast Tonight, and I'm Marcus Farrow. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the show. I'm Marcus. 508-996-0500. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to recap that housing forum, but I thought there was a lot of good information that was shared, and I think Keating did a good job at the outset too, sort of summarizing the issue of housing with some compelling data. I think there's we said about more than 500,000 people are homeless. 60% are staying in shelters, but 40% are unsheltered. And which is, almost half. It's quite a thing. And even, being in shelter is not an adequate long-term solution for people that are homeless. They want to transition into, I think, some better housing situations. New Bedford, 20% of the population lives in a household with an income below the federal poverty level, including 30% of the youth in the city. 52% of housing in New Bedford was built prior to 1939 and 86% prior to 1980. So it's an older housing stock. And so 11% of the housing stock is deed restricted as affordable. 50% of the renters and 30% of the homeowners are essentially at risk of homelessness, with 30% or more of their income going to housing. So, it's one of those things, I think, for a lot of people, especially nowadays, is that, and I think it's, the best argument as to why, we need to, I think, better lobby our government for more comprehensive services in a lot of areas, because everybody is one bad day away from complete and total disaster, right? Financial ruin, insolvency. Most people are insolvent, basically, people own a home and all of that, because if you were asked, a lot of people, if you're asked to pay off every penny of debt you owe today, you wouldn't be able to do it, right, for a lot of people. And so you're one bad day away from a lot of people, not saying everybody, I'm not saying most people in this audience, maybe some people in this audience, but a lot of people are, especially in America, where you don't get a lot. We don't get a lot for the taxes that we pay. We get very little services for the taxes that we pay. You're basically one bad day away from ending up in a situation where you may be housing insecure. And it's something to think about. It's definitely something to think about while we talk about a lot of these conversations that we're having around, where funding should be directed and whether or not we should look at rent control as a viable option. Now, I think having a conversation is good. I think having a conversation around a policy like rent control is good. I think it's not a solution that's going to come as expediently as a lot of people would like, especially considering where the state house is on it and you need the state house's approval. I think they're pretty solidly against rent control or rent stabilization, let's say. But that still doesn't mean conversations on the record shouldn't be held, right? There was a lot there. There were people from like the Federal Home Loan Bank, which is basically a bank that's owned by like a coalition of financial institutions in New England. And they're able to basically, I think they're the ones that basically fund a lot of institutions with the money for loans. And so they have they have some really interesting, I think, homeowner programs and things like that you can check out. By the way, just a correction on what we said about it's homegroupnb.org. Homegroup NB. I think we said homegroup GNB. We said homegroupnb.org is the website if you want to check out more about the home group and the work that Carl, Al, Shane Burgo, and others are doing to try to address this ongoing crisis, because it's going to take work and it's going to take people on the ground, connecting with their community and organizing and lobbying the state and federal government essentially for action. So 508-996-0500. That's how you can join us this evening. We can also take your messages on the WBSM app chat. I got to take a break. We'll be right back.
1420 WBSM is now also on 99.5 FM.
Pollution from trucks is a public health crisis. Diesel-burning trucks belch dangerous levels of pollution, and communities living near ports and along freight corridors breathe especially high levels of this dirty air. But this crisis has a solution. My name is Sasan Sadat, and I work for Earth Justice. I'm working to clean up our air quality, particularly for communities that bear the burden of diesel pollution. For the sake of our lungs, our health, and our climate, the future of trucking in this country has got to be zero emissions. Until then, I will never rest.
Earth Justice is a national legal nonprofit defending the environment and people's health. Earth Justice is fighting to save lives, protect our climate, and strengthen our economy through the shift to zero emissions. If clean air matters to you, visit us at earthjustice.org. Earth Justice, because the earth needs a good lawyer.
Sometimes I just cannot believe all the storms we've gone through here.
I can only hope that we'll be able to leave this house to you one day, baby. You're our legacy.
Planning for these disasters will make sure we're safe, and is the best way to protect that legacy. You know what? We should make an emergency communication plan. That way we're ready this year. At my dorm, we have emergency kits for earthquakes and wildfires, but I'm sure there's something more local I can send you with a link.
Okay.
Smart.
Protect your legacy. Visit ready.gov/plan for the tools and tips you need to start your emergency preparedness plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
WBSM isn't just a broadcast, it's also a podcast. Get all of our podcasts at WBSM.com, the WBSM app, or just search WBSM on your favorite podcast provider.
Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm Marcus. 508-996-0500 is how you can join me this evening. We'll also take your messages on the WBSM app. Home Group NB is the website, because I think we said Home Group GNB, and it's, it's an organization that was founded by Carl Alves and Shane Burgo, and they basically are, an organization of people that are trying to create some positive outcomes for housing. And I think that was a good thing that they did. I think it was no small thing that they were able to get the federal government to organize a conference at UMass Dartmouth to talk about a lot of issues with housing and strategies to solve them. So I think it was at capacity, and you hope that the people there were able to figure out or learn some new solutions. I certainly learned a few things, and learn some new solutions that will help people be able to access affordable housing. So in the next hour, we're running up against another break. I'm going to take it in a few minutes, but in the next hour, I want to talk to you guys about an interesting case that just settled today, and it's the Fox News Dominion voting machines case. And so we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about that, and because I think it's a pretty interesting case in terms of it would have been a precedent-setting case. I guess we'll see how the settlement ends up, but if it went to trial, and I think inevitably up to the Supreme Court, I think it would have been a precedent-setting case in terms of, the First Amendment and libel laws. Typically, the press does have pretty strong protections against libel, which I am a fan of. Not that I engage in libelous behavior, but I think it's often good to discourage people from, using the courts as a mechanism to silence the media. This case, I do think actually is significantly different for a lot of reasons, and I think we can get more into that in a little bit. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a quick break, and we get back. We can get to your calls at 508-996-0500. We can also get to your messages on the WBSM app chat. This is South Coast Tonight. I'm Marcus Farrow, and we're going to take one quick commercial break, and then we will be right back to talk to you, the listener. So stay tuned.